Good afternoon, this is Angela with Parkrose Permaculture. I am standing in the cool shade of my grape arbor here in the front yard of my Portland, Oregon food forest. Now, today it's in the mid 80s, but we are forecast to have record-breaking highs over the next 5 days, including temperatures forecast as high as 114 degrees Fahrenheit over the weekend. It's really concerning when we look at it through a permaculture lens in terms of the permaculture ethic of people care. It's really concerning. Portland is not set up for hot weather. Folks here are not adapted to it, and many people do not have air conditioning, and our houses are not designed for passive cooling or to deal with intense sunshine and high heat. So we don't have efficient design, and we don't necessarily have infrastructure for good people care in very hot weather. I'm very concerned about the elderly in our community and our houseless population here in Portland in particular, those potentially fragile populations that need extra care in hot weather. Now, let's let this car pass real quick. I've seen folks posting all over social media really stressed, not only about keeping their homes and their bodies and their pets and their families cool, but how can they take care of their garden? During the pandemic, many more people have begun to see the value in growing crops at home, in producing their own food, and folks have put in significant financial inputs into growing food for their families. This current heat wave threatens a significant chunk of folks' gardens here in the Pacific Northwest. I don't want to gloss over the fact that most of the West Coast is in a drought, and there is a heat dome over a significant chunk of the country right now, not just Portland. So I know we're not the only ones facing this. So if you have a garden and you're growing your own food, I just want to throw out 3 quick tips that can help protect your plants over the next 5 or 6 days and help get them through the hump of this really serious time of intense sun and very high temperatures. So let me show you a couple of quick things I am doing here in my food forest to help bolster and support my plants so they can get through this heat wave. So standing here in the front yard food forest of my permaculture garden, what can I do to prepare for the heat wave? The first thing I want to do is I want to water deeply early in the morning. Early in the morning is best because I am losing the least amount of water to evaporation, but I am also giving the sunshine a chance to dry the leaves. Watering in the evening in hot, humid weather tends to promote the growth of powdery mildew. Now, evening watering is a secondary choice. If I can't get out in the morning first thing, evening is better than the heat of the day. Plants uptake water best in the morning and the evening. When it's really hot, you're gonna lose a lot of water. Now, you might have soaker hoses or buried irrigation. If you don't, it's okay. Drag out the garden hose. Do what you can to get that ground really saturated. So my next step is that I come through and I take all of my perennials that are done blooming or are just about done blooming, and I cut them back hard. I've done that with my comfrey over here. I've done it with any flowering perennials. You can see my big pile of comfrey prunings. I've actually been doing it with my fruit trees, any water sprouts. I'm working on taking them off my plum tree here, and I've taken them all off my peach. I will be doing that on trees in the backyard orchard as well. So those water sprouts are all just foliage and vegetation through which water loss occurs. So the more that I can remove any unnecessary foliage, particularly leaves, the more I can protect my plants from having too much surface area through which they lose more water. Now, I don't want to prune anything I wouldn't normally be pruning this time of year, but a summer fruit tree prune is okay, and cutting back those plants that are done flowering. Now, I am being careful to leave plants that are still in full flower, making sure that there is ample nectar for our pollinators. I also want to make sure to leave out water for our pollinators. So with all these piles of prunings that I have cut back, I am mulching my beds. So let me duck through here, and you can see where I've cut back my peach, and here I've cut back a comfrey, and I use that and I immediately put it on my bed. And that way I am adding the thickest possible carpet of mulch everywhere. If I've got wood chips, that's great, but I also want to take green matter that I've just cut back and use that as an insulating barrier to help prevent water loss through evaporation. Right now, the biggest risk to our plants in this hot weather is our soil baking and becoming dry, and all of the moisture being sucked out of the soil. So the more we can carpet and protect and cover the soil, we can hold that water in there that we just put in, and our plants will do okay. Now, a quick note. In this kind of weather, you may see this wilting on your plants. This is very, very normal. Wilting is how plants help themselves prevent their own water loss. This is a normal water conservation mechanism that plants have, particularly annual veggies. So if you see your plants doing this over the next few days, it's okay. It's not a crisis. Don't come out and water them in the heat of the day. Just give them a good drink the very next morning and they'll be okay. So right now, the floor of my food forest looks like chop and drop heaven. I have been busy cutting back extra everything and dumping it on the forest floor. That way I'm helping hold in all of the moisture that I just watered into the ground. This is all chop and drop material, grapevines and water sprouts from my plum trees and comfrey. You can see here that I have cut back this morning. So that way my plums and my cherries and my artichoke and my rhubarb all have a thick layer of fresh chop and drop mulch to keep that water in the soil, shade the soil and protect it. So there you have it. You want to water your plants deeply early in the morning. If you can't get to it early in the morning, late in the evening is okay too. Then you want to take your fruit trees and berry bushes, anything with water sprouts, extra summer growth that is going to just cause the plant to lose water, and chop those off. And you also want to take your perennial flowering plants and cut them to the ground if they're done flowering. Then you want to take all that extra biomass and use it as mulch on your freshly watered beds. May not look pretty, may look like a forest floor with leaf litter and sticks everywhere. You may be used to having garden beds with bare soil. This is the wrong time. Well, anytime's the wrong time, but particularly during a heat wave, bare soil is just going to be the worst possible setup for a heat wave. Use that mulch as a protective blanket to keep the moisture in the soil and help your plants. So thanks for watching. I hope you all stay safe. Look out for your neighbors during this time. And I hope your plants are able to weather the heat dome that we are all going to be under for the next several days. Make sure that you are doing the best you can to support your garden, but also take care of your own health, staying out of the sun and out of the intense afternoon heat. I know your garden may look wilty and may look like it's struggling, but the priority is preserving your own health. So please take care of yourself. And hopefully our gardens will all come out on the other end of this doing all right and actually thriving and having done all right because of the care that we can give them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please take a moment and subscribe and check out my Patreon in the description. Those are all ways that you can help me support my 4 children and our family as we have a permaculture homestead here in Portland, Oregon. Thank you.